Hey everybody, welcome. We are at Camp Hydaway in Lynchburg, Virginia. I'm going to run through a practice round, try to give some mental tips, some shot selection, some hole breakdowns, and just what I go through in a practice round and share it with you. So let's go. All right, this is hole 1, 349 feet. Halfway, it's just a straight shot and then it bends to the right. There's two ways to attack this hole, I believe. One is with a distance driver, kind of low, get the skip to finish to the right. Or you can go with a slow turning mid-range or fairway driver. I like the aggressive high-speed driver just to get over to the right and kind of try to park it more so than get a putt with a mid-range. So let's go with the high-speed driver. As I was walking down the fairway, I noticed as I got closer to the green, it got heavily guarded with trees. You can see behind me there's quite a few around the basket, but the fairway continues straight. So I want to, if I was in a tournament setting here, focus more on getting the distance to the basket rather than trying to cut it in tight. So I think if this was a tournament setting, I might lean more towards a mid-range or a fairway and just play the straight shot rather than diving into the woods trying to park the hole. That would be my breakdown of this hole if I was at a tournament. We're on hole 2. It's 246 feet, dead straight. Another tightly wooded hole. This one actually has OB just outside the circle long of the basket. So the goal here would be keep it short, but still try to put it in the circle. And it's on a little bit of a hill, so that might affect putting a little bit, but it also helps on the drive because I can slide it up into that hill and get potentially closer without testing that OB behind the basket. So I think I will be going with a putter here, but I can also bump up to a mid-range if I feel like that'll give me some better accuracy. But right now we're going with the putter. So with the hole being only 246 feet, I think I would go with a putter here. I think the only thing that would change that would be wind if it was blowing through here in these trees, but the real trouble on that hole is just early on. So if we were in a tournament setting, go with the putter, focus on getting through the initial gap right off the tee, and then just letting the putter do the work the rest of the way. And that shot was pretty successful, about 18 feet away, and that's a birdie in my books. Here we are on hole 4. This is a 366 feet, very straight hole with a little soft finish to the left. When I first stepped up to this tee pad, I noticed that there's a tree sticking out on the left side, which kind of changes the shot. You would think a straight hole, you want to throw a flat shot and just keep it straight. But with the way that that tree is sticking out, you almost have to attack it with a hyzer flip that'll kind of flip up to flat and maybe fade a little bit to the right, or you can have it finish straight. But just that little tree on the left makes you have to throw a hyzer initially out the gap. So let's go with a 366 feet or 344. Let's go with a fairway driver first. This is the practice round, so if the fairway driver doesn't work, we'll jump over to the mid-range so we can put a little bit more power on it and get it to get more of a flip up to flat, if not get a little turn on the right. So yeah, let's do it. So I got into some trouble with the fairway driver, ended up off the fairway. I did throw a few buzz shots after, which worked out a lot better. So tournament setting, probably go with the buzz, but scrambling is always important. So when I'm doing practice rounds like this, I like to try the spots that I don't want to be in so I know what to do in case I do end up in these situations. And in the long run, it's going to help, just more practice. So let's throw one from here. Kind of a awkward stance, awkward lie, but that's part of being off the fairway. I think I'm gonna go with the overstable mid, kind of try to bring it in early and let it kind of flatten out at the end of the flight. I think it's a little too tight for a backhand, so see how this looks. Perfect. So one thing I think that gets overlooked is when you actually approach a basket, I think people tend to forget to look back at the hole. to kind of just get a different viewpoint of the shots that are coming in and kind of the style and shape of the hole. To where this one from the tee pad, you can't really tell that it gets tighter as you get closer to the basket. It looks like it's the same width the whole way, but probably the last 40 feet, the gap gets to about 15 feet wide, which for the tee box, you got about a 30-foot fairway. But with that tightening of the fairway, I think the fairway driver is a little too fast, can be a little too squirrely for a finish like that. So went with the mid-range, the buzz, got here pretty close inside the circle, which is all you're looking for when you're in a tournament, is give yourself a chance to make birdies, make putts, and that's how you'll score. So don't forget to look back at the hole to kind of see where you can make adjustments on situations that you can't see from the tee box. So sometimes you'll step up to a hole that's very reachable at 428 feet, but you'll find out that there's no way to reach the hole, and this is one of them, hole 5. It's a slow turn to the left. It probably from the tee pad goes about 45 feet to the left, but there's no way to get there even though it's reachable. There's no way to get there in one shot. So they call it a par 4. So what I do here is kind of just play the layup, give myself the best opportunity to get a 3. This basket's on a tall mound, so I want to be pretty close because that putt can get pretty treacherous. If you miss it, it can roll away 45, 50 feet away. Sometimes there's water down there too, so don't want to be in that. But I think I'll attack it with probably something with an overstable mid-range or overstable fairway driver. But I'm gonna try all the discs out, see which one works out best for me, because if I do throw a driver, it brings in the chance of skipping left into the rough, but I can also get more distance. And then same with the mid-range. I might not get as much of a skip, but I can lose a lot of distance. So I'm gonna try them both out here, see which one gives me the best opportunity for a birdie, because this is a par 4, but I'd love it too. But sometimes you just gotta swallow your pride and take the 3. So with the mid-range and the fairway driver, the mid-range is about 35 feet shorter of the fairway driver, but I think the mid-range is in a lot better spot. I threw the fairway driver as good as I could throw it and as wide as I could keep it, testing these trees on the right side, and I still have a pretty tough upshot from there. Even though I'm in the fairway, it's very guarded. I don't like that as much as this mid-range shot where I don't have as much distance, but it's still very reachable. I have my putter. I think this is the right approach to this from here. But the mid-range, I didn't throw as clean as I did the fairway driver, and I'm still in a great spot to where I could have more improvement on this shot and maybe get 10, 15 feet further. But this tee shot for me would be a mid-range in a tournament. I'm noticing that so far in these wooded holes, I'm tending to go more towards the slower discs, even though I could get more distance out of the fairway drivers and distance drivers. So if there's ever a tournament here, I see a lot of mid-ranges so far. So I just threw my upshot. You can kind of see the mound. The basket's probably about 5 feet up on that mound. You'll notice that I didn't really attack the basket. I was kind of just trying to slide it into the bottom of that hill. Get myself as close as possible without getting the potential roll away, but still leaving myself far enough away from that mound to where I actually have an angle at the basket. I think that's something that happens quite often on these elevated baskets, is you can get too close to where you're almost putting straight up and down, to where if I leave it a little bit further back, I can get a better angle at the basket. But that's what I did there, was leave it a little bit short so I can still have a clean putt at it. Here we are on hole 6. This is the most open hole so far. It's 355 feet. Again, it's right in that little tweener section of fairway driver, mid-range. And it's slightly uphill for the most part, so that'll add a few more feet in the shot. So I'm gonna try the mid-range because that's what I've been going with early in the round so far. So I mean, I'm throwing what's comfortable so far, so if this was a tournament setting, I just have to stick with the mids. But if that doesn't make it there, I'll throw the fairway drivers anyways, just to see where they kind of end up distance-wise, because the fairway is not really the factor here, it's the distance control. So let's start with the mid. So we'll see where that one ended up. I noticed it kind of just fell a little bit to the left at the end. I think that might be due to the hillside. So I'm gonna throw the fairway driver now just to kind of gauge the distance, but if I am to go with the mid-range, I'll know to get it a little bit flatter, maybe have a little slight S to it, but let's go with the mid-range and see it, or the fairway driver, and see the distance here on this one. Just my initial thoughts on that one is that was too easy not to go with. So I think my decision is already made from here, just seeing the flight of that and how easy it was to control on this open fairway. So we'll see when we get up there, but right now my mind is made up on a fairway driver. So my Undertaker ended up about 25 feet short of the basket. The buzz was maybe about 45, so I could get the buzz there if I wanted, but just the ease of the Undertaker and the fairway driver mold. And then you can see the basket right here with so many guardian trees behind it, to if I did overpower it too much, there's a lot there to stop it and keep it close to the basket. So on a hole like this, I would go with the fairway driver just for that speed control and not really much risk behind the basket. So hole number 6, I believe we're on. Fairway driver. Here we are on hole 9. This is 342 feet. Tight tunnel shot, downhill. It's a fun shot. You know, it's slowly bending to the right the whole way from beginning to end, and then it continues downhill past the basket. So speed control is very difficult on this hole. But with it being 342 feet downhill, I think I'm gonna go with a mid-range right here on my first shot. I'm focused more on hitting the line so I don't get into the early trouble left and right. But if I do, I'm gonna have to scramble. So it is practice, so that's what we're here for. But with this distance, I think mid-range is going to be the right choice, but I will potentially, after this first shot, switch to a putter or a fairway driver. But right now in my mind, mid-range. So I threw 2 drives there. The first one I had a little slip, kind of caught a tree on the left, kicked over here into the rough, but I still felt like that was the right shot to go with. So I carry multiple of the same disc in nearly every mold, and a lot of the reasons is for practice in situations like that, to where I knew that was the right shot, but you know, a little misfortune off the tee box there, to where I didn't have to walk down here, grab this disc, and go back. I carried 2 of the same one. So I had the same exact disc there, threw the shot I wanted to on the second drive, and absolutely parked it. So that's just a little tip, I think, as to, you know, people question why do pros carry so many discs, and a lot of players, why do they carry so many discs for situations like that, to where you know that's the right shot, but something just happened right there on the tee box and you want to throw it again, rather than walking and getting that and going back to the tee box, or going around the whole course and then coming back and practicing that hole. That's why you carry 2 of the same discs. So now that I'm here in the rough, I'm still going to practice this shot, even though I know I should throw it better come tournament time, or, you know, more practice rounds. So this is a little tricky upshot right here, but looks like I got a window over here to the left side. So let's try a little turnover. Hole hole 10. This is 294 feet. This is actually a pretty interesting hole. It is another raised basket up on a pile of rocks, but the interesting about this one is there's now, after use, 2 fairways here. You can go out and around to the right with like a flip up backhand hyzer, or you can go with the forehand touch shot and kind of get a little flex out of it. But now with play on this course, it's kind of opened up a left gap here to where you can attack it straight down the middle if you want to be aggressive. And that's kind of a shot that I think people will take if they don't have confidence in a forehand or a flippy beat up mid or putter to throw. But I think what this hole really shows me is going to a course and taking the percentage shot. And what I mean by that is, if you were to attack that hole on the left side, that fairway, you might make that shot 2 out of 10 times, so a 20% chance that you'll hit that gap. But people like to look at it as they parked it 1 time through that hole or 2 times through that hole, and they want to take that. And when a tournament comes around, 2 out of 10 isn't a good chance. You know, it's not good odds there. So I like to play the percentages, so I will take the wider fairway on the right to where I might not park it every time, but I'll give myself the opportunity to have a putt. And I think a lot of people miss that, to where they play for the chance of parking the hole rather than the percentage shot, to where they'll get a putt 7 out of 10 times rather than 2 out of 10 times where they're getting a drop in. So percentages, when you're on a hole trying to figure out what the best shot is, think about the gaps as percentages. Which one is your highest percentage, and take that shot, because when a tournament comes around, that will build the consistency in your game. 7 out of 10 rather than 2 out of 10, you're going to become more consistent just by choosing the right shot. So shot selection and percentages, big deal, very overlooked. So I'm going with the percentage shot here, going forehand flex with the putter. Alright, you good? Alright. So we're on hole 11. This one's 435 feet, dead straight. There's OB Creek right there short of the basket, so it's kind of either play it laying up or going for it. So I've been bragging about this disc a lot on how straight it is. So this is my opportunity, I feel like, to throw this shot just for you guys. So let's make it happen. And if this doesn't work out, I'll throw a few more, try the mid, just play it safe short of the creek and try to get a long putt. But I'm gonna attack this green real quick. So unfortunately I didn't make it all the way down, didn't hit the line exactly how I wanted, kind of overpowered it a little bit, flipped it over. But now I get a fun place to scramble from. I did throw the mid-range. I think it worked out a little better, had a straighter flight to it. But I think overall I would go with the mid-range. It's kind of what I've been going with the whole round so far. And I'm sure you guys have noticed we skipped a lot of holes. I'll cover that here in a little bit. But mid-range again is what I'm going to. But I did enjoy throwing the fairway here, getting some practice in with it. But now let's get the approach. So that shot right there, I went with the aggressive route, and I hit in safe, rolled OB, so luckily I get to take my 4 putt from here, which is generally a drop in, but I could have laid it out across and made my 3 attempt, but I felt like the aggressive shot there would get me an easier putt rather than trying to make a 40-footer with the potential of hitting this thing, rolling back into the creek and taking a 5. So I went the aggressive line. In a tournament setting, I still think I would go with that aggressive line, with knowing just make my mistake right, hit, if I roll in, whatever, I still take my par, with this being a par 4. Again, reachable hole with a par 4 on it, but with the way that this green is set up, kind of makes you not want to attack it in a tournament setting unless you have to. But I like that, to where you get the opportunity to attack it and get an eagle if you have to come back or chase someone, or if you just want some fireworks for your round. Hole 13, 306 feet. I guess I'm gonna take a second and kind of talk about what's gone on this practice round so far. This is the first hole that I get to throw a forehand since hole 3. But you'll notice that we've skipped a few holes here and there, and the reason is when you have 18 holes, some of them are going to be repetitive. So this is one of those kind of repetitive holes that we're going to go over. And what I like to do is something like this is it reminds me of hole 1 and 3, which are both forehand holes. And this is another one that'll be a forehand, but I can kind of reference back to those, and if I made a mistake or if I did something good, I can kind of think back and use like a photographic memory there to, okay, you know, I kind of turned that one over a little too much. Here I want to get that angle a little bit more right, get it a little flatter maybe, or a little bit more hyzer, to where I can make corrections during my round and not wait until after and kind of think back, what did I do wrong on hole 3? What did I do wrong on hole 12? Why didn't I fix it? So being able to go back into the moments on the course where something is repetitive like that, and then there were other holes that were kind of similar straight shots to where I might have turned it over a little bit too much, or hyzered it out a little too early. So, you know, being able to do that during a practice round as well as doing it in a tournament round will create more consistent rounds and make you work on your game even, you know, twice as much as you would in a normal round, even though you're not really changing anything other than mentally looking back on shots that you've already thrown earlier in the day. So here it's only 306 feet, but I think that is in a straight line to the basket. Throwing the forehand or backhand here will kind of add a little bit more distance with it having to curve around. What I'm going to do here is throw a straight forehand disc. This is the ESP Force. I'm going to throw it flat with a little turnover and just try to play it back into the hill. You can see the OB is a little bit short there with the creek, and then I'll throw the other distance driver I have here. A little bit more power, but with the overstability, it's going to cut more towards the basket, which I'll find out if it's worth it or not, the risk with that creek there. So straight, long here, and then it's going to hyzer out here towards the basket a little bit more, but there's a chance of going in the water. So my aggressive shot is right here, about 16 feet from the basket, and my straight one's about 45 feet away, kind of up the side of the hill there. Difficult putt, but I mean wide open. Something I noticed here is if I was to play this hole just like I did hole 1 earlier in the round, this is my result. To where if I thought about playing it kind of how I was talking about that mid-range earlier in the round, I would end up on that hill there. So I was able to, you know, mentally go back to that hole 1 shot and just get it out of my hand flat and let the disc do the work there at the end. And that'll result in a consistent shot like this, where I'm looking at birdie, hopefully 7 out of 10 times. But this is, again, that mental block that I was telling you about. Use that photographic memory to go back into a shot you threw earlier in the course, earlier in the round, earlier in the tournament, because that will actually end up helping you fix these issues that you might have. And I think that's kind of what can be the difference between a really good advanced player to, or even like a lower end pro player, to putting them onto that next level, because it's not something you can physically change. It's a mental change that you will use to help you create a consistency and create, you know, I guess more shots, I guess, in the round. So again, use your mind, because that will help you in the round, in the tournament, and overall disc golf. So here we are on the final hole. We skipped a few holes through there, kind of up the hill. They kind of get repetitive, little straight putter shots or mid-ranges. So we're jumping over here to hole 20 on Camp Hydaway. This one's a little interesting hole. It's got a soft bend to the left, but the way that it's designed is you kind of throw it up the side of the hill here, and then it finishes down to the left with the creek again on the left. So kind of have to have some speed control at the end. But the interesting part about this is I'm gonna throw a mid-range, but the hill actually will pull the disc down to the left for you. So I'm gonna throw a straight mid-range here with the buzz, just up the hill, and let it just naturally finish with the hillside there. So let's do this and see how it turns out. So one bonus element to practicing on the course rather than field work is a hole like the one I just threw, hole 20 here, is that hillside. You can't really find that in a practice field. The hill is actually pulling the disc down with it. I don't know if that's gravity, I don't know if that's just the shape of the hole, but I'm throwing a straight disc up the hill and it's just getting pulled back down, luckily towards the basket, to where if the basket was up on the hill, it'd be a lot harder hole. But that is something you have to be on the course to learn, whether you're just going out there to practice, getting ready for a tournament, just playing with your buddies, keeping score. That is something you're only going to find on the course. So if you have a local course, get out there, learn the holes, learn your shots, mentally, you know, try to find things like repetitive holes to where you can look back on them earlier in the round, last week into a practice round. There's all sorts of things you can figure out just by going out and playing, taking mental notes, to where I think this is the biggest part of this practice round, is getting these small little mental notes out of it, because I don't know how to teach you that. I don't know how to like show you how to throw and mentally teach you. So hopefully you get something out of this to where you can improve your game mentally, to where you can save yourself strokes rather than getting out there and throwing. But then again, getting out there and throwing is what's going to help improve your game. Now let's bring it together and consistently get it together and make you a better player. So hopefully this has helped. Thank you, Foundation, for filming this, putting this on your channel, and getting some players out there, hopefully improving. So I'll see you guys next time.